Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you all. I am Kevser KAHRAMAN, and I am working as a faculty member at Abdullah Gül University. Abdullah Gül University has joined to the campaign of the United Nations has started this year due to their 75th anniversary. As all you know, UN has committed to 17 Sustainable Development Goals. In this panel, we will be mainly discussing the second SDG, which is zero hunger. We have distinguished panelists from different backgrounds. Let me introduce our panelists in a few words, but please, if you wish, you can add more information if you want while you're answering your questions. Semih Hakim is co-founder and CEO of KÖK Project. He is working on accelerating the initiatives for food, agriculture, and water industries and designing corporate innovation programs. We have Robert de Bruggen. He is the co-founder of a smart farming company, AGU-United, which is a worldwide agricultural decision-making web platform that optimizes farmers' land-on production, quality, and economics as well. We have two academicians, Dr. Evrim KARAÇETİN-BELL. She is working at Erciyes University, Department of Environmental Engineering. Her research is focused on ecological farming and effects of agriculture on the environment. Dr. Ahmet ÇOYMAK is working at our university, Department of Psychology. His studies are focused on political psychology, civic engagement, and political trust. We have Hatice Zehra Doğru, an AGU alumni. She was graduated from Electrical and Electronic Engineering department last year. She was the SDG coordinator of AGU while she was a student. And also we have 7 students of our university. They are all second year students. Maybe they can introduce themselves while answering the questions. Before starting the panel, I would like to mention that it is a pleasure for me to moderate this panel. I believe we will leave the stage with a bunch of solution suggestions as we will deal with the issue from different perspectives. Let me start the panel. This year is the 75th anniversary of United Nations, as I said before, and UN will turn to 100 years of age in 2045. Can we start with you, Semih? What do you think the world will be in 2045 when UN turns to 100 years of age? Better of today, worse of today, or the same as today? What is your opinion? Could you please explain a little bit?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. Again, I'm really happy to be here and as part of this panel. So basically, I'm a big believer of positive change, and I'm quite optimistic person, in general. Therefore, I believe we'll be better off compared today. The reason why is that we've been actually experiencing a shift of change in perspectives and also the attitudes and habits throughout the agri-food sector, either from the consumer side or the producer side, or even just the logistics itself. So we're seeing a more, sustainable approach, more, interest to impact in general of the food value chain. So therefore, I think we will be better off in 25 years because the motivation and the interest of change is already here now. What we have to do is to actually start accomplishing that. So therefore, over the next 2 generations, I think we'll be experiencing more sustainable, agri-food value chain. We'll be able to, I think, solve some of the issues regarding hunger and food production. Maybe not all of them in 10 years, but I'm definitely a big believer in 25 years. We'll be, tackling much of these challenges, and we'll be starting to seeking more as such, growing potatoes in moon, or, carrying plant-based meat to Mars. And these will be our problems in the next 25 years, I think.
Thank you. Actually, it is good to hear some optimistic voices at the beginning of the panel. And actually, we are in the middle of the pandemic, so it will also affect to achieve these goals? Do you have an opinion for that?
For sure. I think every time I, answer questions regarding the food systems, as I mentioned, I'm quite, positive. And one of the things that I've been experiencing as a startup accelerator and corporate innovation partner, as we are as Cook Project, we've never seen such interest and even such investments on the agri-food sector and agri-food innovation before. We've been on this field for the last 5 years, and we've never seen, such interest as we see for the last 6 months. So I think one of the silver linings of pandemic was basically the people starting to, having more interest on food production and how it's being, procured and how it's being produced and how it's being, carried out. So therefore, I think the pandemic has a positive effect on an overall future of food. Not at the moment, for sure. We can talk about, hundreds of challenges at the moment, but I think the effects of it would be positive in the long run.
Thank you so much. Robert, what's your opinion about this question? Can we achieve the goals that UN emphasized, which means the world will be better of today?
If I look at the growth of population compared to the food supply and where the supply is concentrated, I don't think it will work unless there are draconian measures to be made. UN is a factor in that. It might even, in my opinion, be that the United Nations is a factor that actually does not speed up that kind of process. But if we are to keep up with the growth of the population versus the food production, we need different methods. And like the pandemic, the question you just asked is that this will be, in my opinion, a tremendous change in the way we behave towards each other and the way we can engage with people in the future. I think there will also be a need in terms of food production in that sense. I think really that they want to have a standardized problem-solving issue. And my opinion, we have a worldwide platform on food production, and we see that every country actually has different specifics as well as different management practices. So, and I don't think that the United Nations is understanding the core of what it is about to produce food enough for everybody to eat. So I don't think they will make their goals in that sense. I think technology like startups, hand in hand with public schools like universities, that they together can actually are a better tool for United Nations to invest in than trying to solve it by themselves with governments who are typically anti-cyclical. So that means that they are only reacting the moment that they should react. They are making the rules. The moment that they affect that rules, that is the moment that the rules are already do not apply anymore. So they are always, let's say, 2-3 years behind of what should be done. So and therefore they are working actually against this instead of for this, is my humble opinion.
Cooperation, you mean the cooperation is important actually, and thanks that we have people like you, like Semi, and the startups. So thank you for your answers. I also want to get the opinions of our panelists, as they will be actually young panelists, as they will be the decision makers of tomorrow's world. Zehra, maybe we can go with you.
All right, can everyone hear me right now?
Sure, we can hear.
Okay. First of all, I'm so thankful to be with you right now. Thank you for inviting me. So if my voice shakes a little bit because of my excitement, please forgive me. My idea about if the problem will be solved about hunger is generally pessimistic. Why? I personally don't believe that hunger will be solved in 2045 unless we as aware people make any investment on certain geographies or just take any action or ourselves. Why? While I learned about this panel, I just tried to channel my Instagram account to reach out to my peers and ask their opinion about if the things will be better in 2045. 100 people just answered my survey and 93 of them were really pessimistic about it. They never believed that hunger will be solved and only 7 answered yes. Since they were optimistic, I just wanted to ask them why and how. Can you just describe me the problem and how do you believe it will be solved? And they never give me a valid solution, but only describe the problems. Governments don't do that. That's why people are hungry. I don't know, these corporations don't take any initiatives. That's why people are hungry. So even optimists have no idea about how to solve these issues. So if we look through the youth, we as an person have ability to solve and target these issues. That's my overall opinion about the hunger and the resolvement. So we have the ability to write. Entire world, there are talented people about engineering, health sector, teaching, etc. But if we still wait someone to solve this, there will be nothing to hope for optimistic perspective. But today, as looking through the camera, you, me, and anyone who sees this speech, take any action to change what's happening around us, yes, we can see a better world. In terms of hunger, of course, because today in technology, education, everything being in process to be better form. But, you know, if we consider that there is $1 trillion food every year are wasted, and there are only 900 million people are hungry, if we stop just wasting 25% of our food, we could, how to say, rescue them. But still they are suffering. We cannot rely on today's system to solve these problems. But sake of our belief, let's say nothing lasts forever. So if we stop supporting the system that makes rich richer and poor poorer, and we start to share with everybody, at least we start thinking ourselves, we can be an optimistic future maybe.
Thank you very much, Zehra, for your highly motivated speech and opinions. Thank you so much. And also thank you for the survey results. And let's move to our students. I believe they will also want to say something. Who can we start with for the answer of the first question?
I can start, Hocam.
Okay, Eray. Maybe you can first introduce yourself, your department.
Yeah. Sure, thank you. And hello everyone, my name is Eray TÜRKMEN and I am second year industrial engineering student. And I am joining to the panel from Hatay, Antakya, and I'm so glad to be here and also excited. About the question, when we look at the 25 years ago, as I heard, as I see, everyone was expecting a different, a better world than the world we are living right now. And it is really hard, I think it's really hard to predict what will the world be like in 2045, because it is up to how we behave during the time between now and 2045. As Mr. Hakim mentioned, if we manage the situation well, if we run this, all of the programs, all of the projects well, of course, the world will be a better place. But if we insist on our depletatory behavior, our consumptional behavior, I think the consequences will be so scary. And if it is the case, if we continue to consume, I don't suppose the SDG targets will change a lot, because the problems are not going to be solved, and current targets will remain, and maybe actually, of course, there will be new targets will be joining to the SDG. And in my opinion, the main change will be on their effectiveness, and there will be more people who suffer from hunger, and it will be really hard to reach every people to be able to ensure they have accessibility to the nutritious food, because it is it is not just producing the food, I think. It is also related to other things. And somehow all of these things are linked to our consumptional behavior, our consumptions. And that was my general idea. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Actually, I believe that as we have young people like you, so I believe the problems will be solved. And anyone else from our students, do you want to answer the question?
Yes, I would like to add a few things to my friend.
Okay, Eda, yes, the stage is yours.
Hello everyone, I am ASLAN and I'm the second year student of Industrial Engineering Department in Abdullah Gül University. And first of all, I would like to thank you all for giving us such a great opportunity in this difficult period. In my point of view, how will be the world in 2045? Actually, we cannot say exactly the world will be a better or a worse than today in 2045, because there are lots of contexts that we have to consider in terms of technology, economy, health, or education. For example, artificial intelligence technology will be very advanced in 2045, and the diseases will be cured in a very short time. This will increase the life expectancy of people. But at the same time, these advanced resources also will be insufficient to answer the people's needs, because there is an expected explosion of world population. If we do not take any action today, also drinkable water resources will be exhausted and there will be a water scarcity. And global warming and climate change will disrupt the natural balance of the earth. However, if there is a common point which is triggered all these by future problems, it is exactly food. Food and the agriculture will be dramatically affected by all these future problems. Like, for example, increases in temperatures, change in weather patterns, or extreme weather events. These all may result in a reduced agricultural productivity, which cause the food insecurity. Also, the explosion of the world population may cause very different problems in terms of food, because source cannot be sufficient to feed the whole world, or the logistics. We cannot the distribution of the food the whole around the world will be very difficult. What makes me think that is actually because world is not tracked on to achieve SDG 2, which is zero hunger. This is where SDG 2 needs to comes into action to end the hunger, to achieve this, food security, and to improve the value of nutrition for the vulnerable population. Maybe a situation will be very good for the wealthy populations, but we need to take action as young generation, governments, and states to protect the children and vulnerable populations.
Thank you, Edanur, for your nice answers. Actually, I can say that we have mostly optimistic voices. It's good to hear that, I can say. But it is also said that we have to act starting from now. But we have a young generation who are aware of the global challenges and want to do something for solving the problems. So actually, Eda mentioned some of the targets for SDG 2. As you know, ending hunger and ensuring accessibility of safe nutrition and sufficient food to all people, and ending all forms of malnutrition, and double the agricultural productivity, and also increasing the incomes of food producers, farmers, are some of the SDG targets for ending hunger, for zero hunger goal. What are the main obstacles and challenges that you think will most affect to achieve these goals and the vision of UN? Semi, maybe you can we can go on with you.
Sure, I'll be happy to. First of all, I would like to say it's so awesome to hear all of the, you know, passionate voices. I'm always happy to hear. But I wanted to also just circle back for like 10 seconds of that first question, is that we need to take into account that all of the stuff that is being mentioned as will is already happening. All of these, you know, food production problems regarding climate change, hunger, it's already happening. It's not something going to happen in 25 years. We are already experiencing these, not maybe in Turkey, but definitely in Central African Republic or in Indonesia or in Bolivia, or I don't know, in pretty much, you know, across the globe, as places that we, you know, categorize as third world. So that's already happening. That's not something in the coming. That's already happening. What we have to take into account is that there's now, what is compared to 25 years ago, is that we have solutions now. When we're talking about we're not going to have enough meat to be produced, we have alternative protein now, from algae, from insects, from lab, from plants. When we say we're not going to be able to produce food efficiently, we have agri-tech, we have smart tech, we have precision agriculture. When we say we're actually killing the fields and killing the crops, etc., we have biotech. So like compared to 25, 30 years, even, you know, going back, which is the most destructive era pretty much in the world, is the 80s, I would happily and happily blame the generations who took part on that. Nothing to offense, it's just, you know, underlining the fact that the 80s was amazing era to just kill everything. So we're trying to track back what we had before. So we have the solutions. What we have to accomplish, and I'm coming back to the answer of that question, is basically the obstacles there is now is that not enough successful case studies. And by case studies, I mean for-profit case studies. I'm not talking about NGO or governmental initiatives. I'm talking about like startups and successful companies and venture funds who are focusing on basically the for the future of food, you know, investing on agri-tech, investing on alternative protein, and having successful stories. And I'm talking about in level of, you know, Beyond Meat IPO, or, you know, when we're talking about ag tech, it's not something as a cool, but it's something that we have to do. And, you know, when it comes to the entrepreneurship side, it's always been taught as, you know, Airbnb, Uber, etc. But we have examples of, you know, plenty, Beyond, and I don't know, like similar, you know, startups across the globe that are actually already changing the agri-food value chain. So what we need is to basically have more success stories, more startups, and more initiatives who are also has the models of basically business models that are sustainable, and create more, you know, startups and more initiatives to come from the for-profit side, because that will also create a change across the globe, not as a public initiative, but rather as a business initiative to changing, you know, overall course of the food value chain. So that's pretty much my thoughts. So that's why we need, you know, more examples to be told that.
Thank you so much. Besides Beyond Meat, I think there is a company just who is producing plant-based egg, right?
Yeah, there's like, I mean, there's like thousands and thousands of examples, but like, you know, the great examples are always like the ones that, you know, have cool story behind and saying, yeah, they just, you know, became the unicorn in food tech and this company and that. Like the whole conversation, I don't want to take too much of time, but I want to just give this example and yield my time on that. But basically, one of the great examples is that the reason why the alternative proteins are trying to, you know, crack the code and try to enter the Asian market is that because of the growing population and demand on meat. So they try to, you know, provide more alternative solutions, and also ag tech side, more, you know, sustainable food production. But all of these are actually existing solutions. All we have to do is just start integrating them and being a norm. And then from there on, we can continue the conversation. So that would be my thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Robert, can we go on with you? What do you think?
Yes, of course. Hi. Thank you. Very good for your answers. And I really enjoyed the enthusiasm of all the people that I'm hearing here. That's really nice to hear. the answer of your question, actually, I would like to add to Semi also. The developments are going very well in the agriculture as well as in the technology. I mean, up till 5 years ago, we didn't even hear of drones, or we thought that was somewhere in the yeah, that was somewhere into space. But now farmers are using drones to have a reconnaissance of their fields and see if there are any bugs or any empty spots or yellow or whatever. Yeah, so technology is also not just for the happy few and the rich ones, but also it trickles down to the practical usage of farmers in that sense as well. Because monitoring diseases, because since the global warmth is continuing, that means also bacteria, fungi, and viruses have become more of a problem, or potentially more of a problem. So that means monitoring is one of the things that you can actually do. I have a friend who's working for Wageningen University, and they are experimenting in these little petri dishes with all kinds of bacteria, climate changes, and to see what you can do with it. Another friend of mine is working, for instance, in the hospital, and they have all miniature livers, spleens, lungs, and they have miniature ones and that are really functioning, and they actually put them into hazard to see what the reactions of those specific organs are, etc. It's amazing the micro level of developments, the nanotech as well, but also the practical usage. I think that's one of the key things in the answer, is that these technical solutions should be accessible to anybody in farming. And that is now unfortunately not the case, because, for instance, if you look at the Netherlands, which I'm residing in, the precision farming is a very big hot item at the moment in agriculture, but it is at this moment, it's not affordable for anybody except for even 10% of the Dutch farmers, who are amongst the most wealthy ones, or not, yeah, or with the biggest crop yields, etc. And they cannot afford to use these precision farming tools because they are just too expensive, is one thing. The other one is the educational level. I mean, people here are pretty educated, but like my clients in Africa, they are in a family business, never saw the inside of a university, and they just grow crops on their fields. So they cannot interpret this kind of data sets. Yeah. So the question, the answer to your question is, I think the United Nations is actually stopping these developments as well, with the way they are approaching the whole systematic problems. I think the technologies have to become cheaper, more widely accepted as well. And I think also from the core, the agriculture itself has to change, because there are only a few farmers per region almost that are innovative and pioneer-minded enough to try things. Of course, and it makes sense because you are playing with future income of those people, right? So the only thing that you can do is try to create references with regions, with farmers that can actually afford it, or supported by universities, or supported by United Nations, let's say, maybe local governments, that they say, okay, this is one of our model farms that we appoint as a model farm. We're going to try a lot of things, but the farmer himself or herself has to be also responsible for it. So it's not just, here you have money, do it. It has to be a co-ownership of the production in that sense. And I think in that way, and it's of course, scalability is there a problem, but at the end, we are talking about 2035. So that's like almost 14 years ahead. I mean, in 14 years, you can create a lot of model farms, and like spreading like wildfire around it. These other farms will then adopt those methods. And that is how you can actually, in my opinion, grow food in a better way, and also keep track of the management, and in terms of the proteins and everything that is needed for that. So I would say United Nations in that sense, come down from your golden tower and see what's happening on the operational floor. I hope.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your nice answer. Maybe we can go with Evrim Hocam. Do you want to answer this question? What do you think about it?
Hello, thank you for inviting me, first of all, for this panel. It is really interesting. I am at Environmental Engineering Department of Erciyes University, and I'm actually working on impact of agriculture on environment and how environment is influenced by agriculture. And Edanur actually really nicely put how multidimensional problem this is. And I think we're asking in a way that we're asking the wrong question. How are we providing food to everyone? My question is, how are we actually restoring the balance on Earth? Because when we focus on food too much, and when we try to concentrate too much on food production, how we can provide this. Using technology and all other sources, we concentrate only on the food, and we now know that during food production, we're creating a lot of environmental problems. We know that 25% of the global carbon emissions are coming from agriculture and agriculture-related issues. And this is not only using fossil fuels during the field, this is also the products we produce from Earth. Like for making fertilizers, we're using a lot of technological development that releases carbon dioxide in the environment. We do a lot of mining, and those mining and technological related things are also releasing a lot of carbon dioxide emissions. We're using natural land, and those natural lands are actually the carbon sink for nature. They're storing carbon dioxide in soil. And those natural lands are usually destroyed either by mining, by agricultural area conversion, or city building. So the whole balance of the world is right now in stake. And if you ask me what will happen in 2045, I can't even say what will happen in 10 years, because if we don't have drastic measures in 10 years, we will miss the critical climate change point, which is after 10 years, if we cannot stop the decrease of temperature increase 1.5 degrees, the positive feedback loop of the climate change will start, which means many of the carbon dioxide right now stored in permafrost will start to release. And this will start a positive feedback and the carbon dioxide release. And the environment, the climate change will not be stoppable. So there won't be even 2070 or things like that. And the climate change's influence will be, as I said, in a positive feedback loop, which will also influence the agricultural areas. So the obstacles are very many. And the mindset should come to organizing the balance in the world, bringing back the balance. And the thing is, like, this is a multidimensional problem. Last week, I was joining the SETAC conference, which is a Society for Ecotoxicology meeting. And they organized a huge meeting among agriculture experts. Many big companies were there, many farmers there, NGOs were there. We were all trying to put together how agriculture should be like in the future. And everybody was asked how agriculture should turn into and what biodiversity is, because nature is itself providing a base for agriculture. Also, it provides a lot of ecosystem services. Nature should be preserved and nature should be balanced with agriculture. And that is a big problem, because right now with the mindset of getting too expert in one subject, we forget the other perspectives. For example, we're trying to produce too much food. Let's convert food to this, use all sorts of technology. But while producing that technology, we are creating other environmental problems outside. So how can we restore this balance in this situation is the major question. And the obstacles are big, but on the other hand, one thing is that we have all the tools. We have all the tools to convert system back to its balancing format. And here the solution not only lies in technology, but also in finding the ecological perspectives, because ecosystems are also providing a lot of services for the environment, for the agriculture. A land next to an agricultural area, an ecosystem service next to agricultural area provides natural cycles. If we concentrate on individually degrading everything and trying to find a technological solution to each one of them, it is a very difficult way to deal with things, because right now, as Robert said, we can now find bugs using drones. Then another problem is bacteria, and then fungi, and all sorts of things. We cannot degrade this. We have to start going back to the nature and how things are working in nature. In nature, the whole is bigger than its parts, which means there are interactions with species, and those interactions are providing a lot of input for the system to be healthy. And by moving into the technology too much, we created a lot of environmental problems, and that is why we're suffering right now. The industrialization and the side effects of those industrialization is creating a lot of environmental problem right now, and it brought us to the level of existence. We have a crisis of existence right now as a world member. And this crisis is not only influencing the food problem, but also the humanity. The survival of humanity is at stake right now. And this is not only me telling this. IPCC, a huge organization about climate change, is saying that we have only 10 years to stop this from happening. And so what do we do? Maybe is this a part I should be seeing, but I think we should unite our sources. Like the last meeting I joined, I would like to actually talk more about it. But we don't have time, I know about that, but all different visions. Technology is a part of the solution, but environment is as well. And also ecology is as well, government as well, education as well. And the thing is, like, this is the part, what kind of a world we want. And how can we actually put this together? More food is not solution. Balanced world is a solution. Okay, I hope I could explain my concerns. Maybe I should leave the words to the students.
Thank you, Evrim Hocam. You look from a different point. Thank you for your answer. Actually, you pointed out the balance we have to do in the world as the sources are finite. So thank you for your nice answer. Maybe we can.
Kevser, can I react? Can I react to that? Because Evrim, I really think that what you are, what the image that you are creating is actually the cause of going through that industrial stuff, like fertilizer producers that are part of the ecological problem, is that it is based on consumer demand. So in that sense, we should actually try to stop the growth of the population in that sense. So that is actually the solution of for that problem in that sense. So I do think that technology is actually part of actually, it is the only solution in my opinion, unless you want to eradicate a lot of people in the world. So I think Semi was right that the 80s were very destructive, but because of that destructiveness, we learned a lot. And as we see now, there is a lot of surge. Leave out Trump with his not ratification of the Kyoto, but the rest of the world is aware of, for instance, the whole CO2 problematic. Like, for instance, in the 90s, we had this problem about the gap in the stratosphere. Because of all the ozone, let's say, yeah? And you don't hear that anymore because that gap has been closed, because we are trying to move into that direction of not creating a problem anymore. And that has helped with technology. If you look at the pandemic, what it has brought, especially in China, I saw EASA satellite pictures on that before and after. And the moment that the China Wuhan region had to stop production, you see that the whole nature and the whole air pollution is solved. So in that sense, technology can only is moving into that direction now, and it's about the awareness of the people and the consumption of people that are actually demanding this kind of push for higher productions and push for bigger food parts. And as I said in the beginning, I really think that the production of food is too much centered in countries where the conditions are perfect. So the technology will provide probably with a solution to move that in a way that it still keeps fresh or preserved or anything to those other regions, so other people can also provide that. I think that is where we are going, and so logistics is going to be a very big issue here. I don't believe that everybody can produce anything anywhere. I think I do believe in this specialism paradigm that some regions, for instance, if in the Netherlands, as an example, we can produce peanuts, I think the Netherlands should produce peanuts. And if there is a wheat in Ukraine, then Ukraine will provide wheat into the whole world, for instance, just as an example. But that is really far-fetched. But I really think that if we want to solve the ecological problems, then we should actually change our whole consumption behavior in that sense.
Can I add 10 seconds to that? I actually I wanted to just add one more thing, because I totally agree with Robert on that. I think one of the problems that we need to actually leave out is to, first of all, we need to understand what is actually the technology that we're talking about, because technology could be determined from tractors to biofertilizers. It's a wide spectrum. The industrialization is a totally different thing than agri-tech, than the food tech, etc. Because if we're talking about industrialization of a vertical farming, that means we're not going to use 90% of the water that has been already using for the certain crops. So it's a major aspect that we need to take into account. And there's also the fact that these, the understanding of the ancient knowledge for agriculture is actually enough to produce food, which is, I think it doesn't, it doesn't, try to be PC on this, but it doesn't add up because of the climate change at the moment. This is happening across the globe. We're just, let's focus on Turkey for 10 seconds, is that when we look into, hazelnut production, the tea production in the north, or, certain crops as such, I'm trying to come up with the, what do you call almonds, right? Almonds and apricots and all these crops. It's not going to be able to produce in the certain zones that are already being produced, such as Kayseri, Malatya, etc., because of the climate change. So we need to take into account the mathematics and the scientific knowledge on that, and understand how we can produce all of these crops and certain products. And if we don't, integrate technology into the picture, all we have left is basically the last 30 years we're already being, experienced. And for the next 30 years, we're going to, talk about the same stuff, that we're not going to have enough food. We're not going to be able to distribute it. We're not going to do this and that. And in 2045 and even 2065, we're going to have the same situation. And we need to understand that without the technology, it's not going to go anywhere. it's not because it's cool, it's because it's needed. So that's why I need to, like, I wanted to just share that as well.
I have to explain myself here. I wasn't very clear in saying that technology is a part of the solution, and you don't have to, you shouldn't be starting to point off, no, we should be removing and going back to the ice age and start inventing everything. I didn't say that, first of all. For both of you, precision farming is also the solution of this problem. Technology is also a solution of this problem. I'm not saying that these are unnecessary or they should be thrown away. Of course, we're in the 20th century and we will use these tools, but those are not the only solution. That is the problem. The thing is, like, the agriculture is turned into a degraded of finding the shiny solution, removing all other parts, and then concentrating on that solution. We are forgetting how nature is working. Nature works in diversity. Nature works in interactions. When you remove each part, you start adding inputs into the systems. And in inputs require energy. Inputs require more energy in the system. When I do this budgeting thing, that's my job. I put all the inputs and I put all the outputs, and I budget energy in and energy out. And we calculate how much input is getting, how much input is getting out. In the natural systems, agriculture is done in a forest by using less energy and producing more energy. And the kind of this thing, like, the more energy the less energy you use, the more things, because it is the whole way, the optimal system. While we're using, saving time and energy while doing agriculture by using fossil fuels, by giving input into the systems, we're kind of destroying the balance of how things work in the nature. This is a very deep subject, actually. I could actually share my papers, but the thing is, in nature, nature starts from a monoculture system to a very diverse system itself, and produces food in that systems and stores carbon dioxide in the soil. Right now, our agriculture system turned into a carbon dioxide source. While we're producing food, we're releasing carbon dioxide to the environment. So how can we use technology to convert this? This is a problem of technological people's answers. Like, how can we store carbon dioxide in the soil again instead of releasing to the atmosphere? It can be done by, as well, the technological versions and the technological methods. The nature, in a way that we are trying to be less environmentally problematic, but we're not trying to be actually solving the problems. I mean, so this is the more of a cycle, like water cycle returns back, nitrogen cycle returns back, carbon cycle, everything returns back. Carbon is the storage of the soil. So how can we use technology to restore that balance? I'm not talking about going back to ancient times and making people follow these things, but we can talk about these in a separate ways. We have to start listening to each other. We have to also look at traditional, ecological, and all of the other methods and get together and see that how can we solve this problem. And I think we all three experts should leave the words to the students, because this is their panel, not ours. I'm sorry for taking a lot of time.
No, it was a very nice conversation between the three of you. Actually, before going to the students, I would like to ask Ahmet Hoca, maybe he can answer this question in a different point, because he is a psychologist. So I believe he will answer. We will get a different answer from him.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Ahmet, and I'm at the psychology department of Abdullah Gül University. Before coming here, it's just a few months ago that I used to live in New York. So I think it's one of the things that I would like to put, that how the concrete jungles that is kind of couldn't give us that is kind of attention and relation with the nature that Evrim Hoca put out that very beautifully. I think one of the things that is how individuals that sort of have a relationship with their nature and their production and their consumption, their motivation to produce and push forward to make the humans better, or production better, or consumption better. I think it's not just only the matter of the survival that we all store and stock up all the foods that we have already, you know, too much when considering the populations, but the demands is different. That Mr. Bourgi put out beautifully. I think the demands, that is the consumption, is going to base on the individual. So then therefore, my perspective, one of the most important obstacle is the metacognition. What is metacognition? Metacognition is the ones thinking about, you know, one's thinking. So most of the time it's a little bit mixed up with the awareness. Well, they are very close, but it's not necessarily the same things. The metacognition requires the process, the people to plan, monitor and assess their own understanding. So which basically, when we have a metacognition about our own actions in everyday life, and when we consume, when we, you know, motivated to develop some sort of advancement in technologies, that is most of the time that we are left behind with many questions that we couldn't see, like what is the side effect of it, like Evrim Hoca mentioned. So when we're motivated to do something, when we're buying this t-shirt, for instance, what is the effect on the environment that I'm really interested in? So why I'm interested in, how I'm interested in. And so all those questions coming to play a very important obstacle, that most of the time that we don't have that kind of cognitive investment. In this panel, all the students and beautiful panelists, that is all very interested in the subject for sure. But when we considering the human population and human culture, that to what extent we all invest in this process. So to what extent that we, you know, give the cognitive efforts to think about how their actions that is kind of influence the environment, but even doesn't necessarily to go forward to think about the humanity as a very subjective level, that is kind of how it's going to affect us in a very near future. That is not the question most of the people. So I think metacognitive understanding is quite important, but and it's also very important obstacle. So how are we gonna deal with these obstacles to reduce this kind of unawareness, or, you know, the let's say the less of the cognitive efforts to this kind of investment, the important natural investment. That is one of the things that we need to make it accessible for the people. The accessible means that it's like as a culture, because I mean well, first of all, that I mean the Eda, I think, put it in the discussion and a little bit previously heated on that how, you know, the technology can be part of the solution. Yes, of course, but the problems that we have had at the moment, that we all, you know, united around the United Nations and decided to solve. The problem is began with us, that our intention to use the technology and improve the production. So basically the reasons that the problems, but particularly we are talking about the third world, that we are responsible as a, you know, the how, you know, use this environment and the resources and energy to put in the input into nature, and then it became kind of, you know, and we wanted to live in the skyfall. We wanted to create the you know, concrete jungles and say it the beautiful city. We wanted to, you know, stock up an industrial, and we just wanted to can food and just open it and eat it. very quickly. So basically that we are not going to back, but definitely we should take the responsibility to our own actions, what kind of culture that we created around us, what kind of social structure and live. I mean, what is my relationship with my family, and how I'm going to provide the food for them, or they provide the food for me. So all those questions come into place. That is our own metacognition and the culture we create around us, that how, you know, we take the responsibility. I mean, I would like to mention very briefly about what sort of research that I'm doing at the moment, because I'm, as a scientist, that I see the researcher is part of the solutions, and very important solution to able to create this metacognitive understanding and make the knowledge accessible for the common people or all people, you know, quite easily. And according to my results, over 100 researchers from the different faculties, that seems to be not really promising, because I mean, we are expecting too much to cognitive effort from the peoples that is seen and have a metacognition, to what extent they are subject at their efforts in the universities or their research and research activities that related with the problem of hunger. In a matter of fact, that when I look at that, the hunger is almost the bottom of the list, that the researcher thinking that they are subject, and they are, you know, they are subject related with the problem, and their research activities, not necessarily just the research. I mean, all academic activities, including the, you know, meeting with the NGOs and making a public speech, giving the course and talking with the students, all those different type of academic activities, they do not see related with the hunger. So why is the problems that? Because sometimes we are a little bit overestimated that to what extent highly educated people can able to understand and create that kind of knowledge. I think the basic things that as a human being, we are mostly able to understand with the concrete, tangible outcome that we can communicate with. So then therefore, first of all, that we need to able to put it a kind of into the culture. How are we gonna do that? We're gonna do that with the art. We're gonna do it's kind of the communication and festive, you know, it's to showing that is to making a museum that how we, you know, screw the earth. That is a part of it. And the second things that I would like to put it from my psychological perspective, very briefly, I know I don't have enough time, that collective guilt. So the collective guilt is another psychological concept that's once that is because of the member that feeling the distraction of the other groups or animals, and in this case, the nature. So to what extent we feel guilty about being a human being and, you know, screw the nature and use all the resources in the benefit of our own individual self, you know. So we don't have, I mean, even when we motivated to do something better and good, most of the time we are motivated to being an important, being a good, and being better about their self, because those kind of emotions like regret, like guilt, those are not necessarily very good emotions that the humans wants to experience. But in a matter of fact, our science that show that once the people feel those kind of feeling, you know, the emotions like collective guilt, their action is going to increase to make it better and to solve the problems. So I think one of the other things that we need to start to think about that how we're going to share as a human being, that we feel ourselves as responsible, increase our metacognitions, and feel a little bit guilty to able to start to action, to take responsibility and rely on the science and technology, of course, but then we need to figure it out, what is the ethic, or what is the, the other elements that we can't see when we are motivated to do something as a solution. Sometimes we have, or we are as a solutions that might create this more problem than the solution. So I think this panel or kind of this debate and discussions that is just beautifully help us to what we're gonna do better for the future of humanity and nature and reduce the hunger of the world. I think I take too much, so just leave the floor to our beautiful students.
Thank you so much, Ahmet Hocam. The different points you pointed out, different view, and also we can turn to our students. Maybe Sena, do you want to add something for this question? What are the obstacles or challenges? We can go on with you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Sena. I'm an industrial engineering student, second year as well. And for the question, I think the answer is, for me, people. I think we are the biggest challenge. The way we treat the earth now, we can see we are the reason of the problems. Many of us are unaware of these issues, so that will affect not us now, maybe, but our next generation faced with many challenges. And I think climate change is one of the important issues among them. Climate change is damaging food and water security in significant ways. I think this is the greatest environmental challenge the world has ever faced. The number of extreme climate-related disasters, including extreme heat, droughts, and storms, has doubled since the early 90s. To keep in relation with the question and the topic, these disasters harm agricultural productivity of major crops such as wheat and rice, causing food price increases and income losses that reduce people's access to food. So despite having contributed little to cause climate change, and the poorest developing countries are already experiencing the effects negatively, of course. The global population is expected to rise more than 9 billion by the end of the century, with only slight increases expected in available in farmland. Agricultural production must increase to keep pace with population growth, I think. And our success in meeting that challenge will determine whether the end of hunger remains in our sight, actually. Feeding everyone on Earth is challenging enough without climate change. The number of hungry people will continue to rise if countries fail to tackle climate change and build resilience to its unavoidable impacts. That's all I can say about this question.
Thank you, Nursena. I am sure that some of other students will answer this question. We want to hear their opinions. Maybe
yes.
Otman?
Yes, Hojam.
Okay.
So, hello everyone. Hello everyone, my name is Otman. I am a second year business administration student at Abdullah Gül University. I would like to emphasize just what the other panelists have said about the balance, and I will be giving some data from the United Nations report. So after COVID-19 pandemic, the situation almost all the countries just got worse. This implies that the United Nations agenda had also been affected, and these effects made the realization of most of the goals more difficult to be achieved by 2030. So speaking of hunger goals, food insecurity is increasing among poor people between 2015 and 2019. This is from the UN data, the UN report of 2020. And because of this pandemic, things are just getting worse. So according to the tables shared in the United Nations report of 2020, Sub-Saharan Africa and Central Eastern Asia are the most affected regions with food insecurity between 2014 and 2019. And according to the UN data again, 132 million people will be in danger of hunger because of COVID-19. So on the other hand, food wastage is an important factor affecting food insecurity. And we can see from the United Nations report that the countries less suffering from food insecurity tend to be wasting more food. So I believe this will be a huge obstacle in the way of the realization of the United Nations goal of stopping hunger. And I believe that the balance is the key.
Thank you so much, Atman. I think Nisa has an answer.
Yes, I can also add something.
Okay, Nisa.
Hi everyone, I am Nisa Gündüz from Industrial Engineering Department. I am really happy to be a part of this beautiful panel. I think there are many social, economic, and environmental obstacles like unbalanced food systems, that rural poverty, and climate change that the other panelists mentioned. But in my opinion, the most important ones are wars and conflicts. These conflicts tend to have a strong adverse impact on hunger and food security. It causes mass displacement and economic recessions, disrupt unemployment. Also, conflicts undermine agricultural supply chain and marketing channels from production to harvesting or transporting and marketing. So it makes food less available and less accessible. And in my perspective, we can end hunger if in our lifetime, but only if we end the conflict. Without peace, we will struggle to achieve a world where everyone has enough to eat. There is enough food to everyone, and millions of people go to bed hungry every night, unfortunately, and I think it is unacceptable. Also, additionally, like Osman mentioned, there may be some unexpected challenges like COVID-19 pandemic that we are in the middle. It is impossible to ignore its negative impacts on food security and food systems. So not being prepared for this kind of unexpected challenges makes harder to address these challenges also. That's all I can say about the obstacles.
Thank you all for your answers for this question. And actually, there are lots of things to say, but I have to go with the third question. In the United Nations 75th campaign, they want to hear the voices of the people from all over the world for suggestions to manage the challenges. So my other question is, how can global cooperation and in particular the UN better help to manage this challenge? How can the UN better work with the other actors? Semi, can we start with you for this question?
Of course. Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, right? I mean, that goes, one of the main themes of the day. But I think we need to take into account of we need to understand what's actually the role of UN regarding the food sector. Like, what's exactly that we've been expecting from all of these agencies that is part of UN, and what it should become, because there are a lot of stuff that has been expected by the UN, and a lot of stuff is not actually going to happen or ever happen or ever happened in the history. For example, we've seen a lot of investments and grants that is being provided by the UN. We've seen a lot of different initiatives and activities that has been helped to solve the challenges within the SDGs. But we need to take into account is that there's a lot of actors and there's a lot of factors within the food system that also affect of the hunger. So that being said, one of the great examples that has been supported and done by UN was, at least on my account, is that first one was the SDG accelerator that took place last year, which was a global accelerator focusing on impact startups that has been funded by UN and other agencies, across the globe. I think these initiatives like these, or the accelerator that they have in Munich, is great examples, because, for example, the accelerator the UN has in Munich is also not just focusing on startups, but it's also focusing on the corporate innovation side. So all of these, activities from education to startups and also the growth stage support, we need to, I think, for at least on my on my perspective, is that what UN provides is a network. So and I'm, as I'm coming from, from the startup sector and looking more on the innovation and innovation through technology side, what I would love to say is that to creating platforms as such SDG accelerator and the work such as like that, for startups to integrate their products and solutions directly into the field, directly into the challenge, would be perfect. Because within the network of UN, these challenges and these problems has been quite vividly seen within the field. So UN should be able to provide opportunities for startups. It doesn't mean just the investment side of it, but basically being the platform of showcasing and connecting the startups with the field, because that's one of the main issues in general with the startups, trying to figure out who are their customers and what are their solutions they're providing, etc. And when we're talking about the agri-food sector, all of these challenges are actually pretty global. It doesn't stay in a certain region, a certain country. So possibly what I would suggest, if I can, in a way, that I would definitely expand the work like SDG accelerators, because startups also represent the personal initiatives in taking action and solving the problems that the entrepreneurs see. So creating platforms and creating opportunities and creating business development opportunities in a way for startups through these activities would help a lot for solving these issues. That's my 2 cents on that.
Thank you for your opinion. Maybe we can go with Robert. Robert, we would like to hear your opinion about it.
Well, I think I already ventilated it a bit, but I think
yes, the questions are a little bit mixed. So if you add something else, you can.
No, if I look at the amount of people, for instance, working at the United Nations and the amount of the ratio that they have as innovation managers, I would say that tells you enough in terms of how they feel about innovations, because it's very low. The amount of innovation officers or scouts versus the people that are working for the United Nations. So I think it's a perpetuum mobile. That means in itself, it tries to sustain itself. I have been working and traveling through quite some dangerous areas, and the most that's why I'm actually so against organizations like the UN. They do a good job in principle, yes, but I have seen a lot of poverty in Afghanistan, in Myanmar, and then these United Nations people are driving through that country with the newest Land Rovers. I mean, that is such a contrast that I cannot get that out of my mind. The moment, and that has been more than 20 years ago, I cannot get that out of my mind the moment I hear United Nations. Yeah, so they are, I believe, as a startup and as a serial startup, I have to say, I believe in keeping your cost as low as possible. But the United Nations has a completely different way of idea in that set. They would like to have the biggest Wasserkopf, so the overhead costs, let's say. That is possible. So they are, I think they're ancient in that way. Like I said, they are anti-cyclical. They're not reacting to the current situations adequately enough. They don't have enough innovation inside as well as scouting. And governments they donate just to get the idea of that they're doing something good in the world. So I do think that United Nations is part of the problem and not part of the solution at this moment.
Thank you for your answers. I think there are lots of programs that UN is doing in Turkey. Evrim Hoca wants to mention about them in a few words. Evrim Hocam.
Yes, thank you for that. United Nations have many programs in Turkey. One of them that I was heavily involved with was Small Grants Program, for providing lots of development opportunities for farmers. And in many difficult countries, yes, it fails, especially when there is war. It is very difficult to operate for United Nations. But also there are a lot of things that it does. In Turkey, last year, it supported 70 small grants program, which gives a little bit of money for a farmer to set up a system and continue that way. And I can give fabulous examples for that. So my take for that is that United Nations small grants development programs, especially for those of the small farmers and producers, should continue to keep them standing on their own feet. That will be just what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Evrim Hocam. Maybe we can turn to Fadia for her answer. Fadia, do you want to talk about this question?
Yes, Hocam. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. Actually, it's, sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Fadia Khanam. I am from Bangladesh. I'm a second-year student from Business Administration Department. So to my surprise, it's just that like I have seen Robert Hocam and Evrim Hocam have actually said few things which were in my mind. It's that, first of all the hunger issues and everything, these all occur because of few reasons that are like inequality in any economy, and then there are like problems like not being able to get enough education facilities, and then there are some like urban environmental areas which could be more useful, made more useful. So the UN, they could mostly like focus on these aspects more. Like they can make education and education most importantly, like more accessible to a lot of people, because that is where I feel a lot of people, they get to know a lot of knowledge about how the world is moving on and what the situation is. And having more education will allow them to even get more job opportunities as well, which will increase their income level, I can say. Through these ways, they are able to have the basic life, and they can get access to food and nutrition food, I mean, when I talk about this. So they can just like make use of it, and I guess somewhat level they can decrease the hunger issues that's going all over the world. There are like countries like Yemen who are also having a lot of conflict and war related issues, which is why they cannot like have a stable economical condition. And then there is Afghanistan, which is mentioned by Robert sir. Like these countries are actually having a very downside of their economical part, but still it's like it's surprising that UN is not really taking a lot of measurements that they should take. Then there is the urban environment part, where the UN should, I don't know, through government or in some way, they should have some brands, or I don't know, brands or actors, because these are the powerful people of our economy. So they can just get access to them, and they can make sure that the ones who are actually living in these sort of sectors like urban environment, urbanization and everything, they can get some grants and subsidies from the government so that they can harvest more and grow more food for more food accessibilities. So I guess those are the things that the UN should focus more on. Lastly, one more thing, there's one more thing I would like to mention is like the population, because I come from a country where it is overpopulated. Like for any country to have a proper, I don't know, food system, and so that it's available for a lot of people and they don't go through hunger issues and malnutrition, they can just reduce the population as well, which is why we should also educate the women, or mostly like educate people in general about holding back. Like, I don't know if that's the proper term. Like we can just say them to reduce the population, like not give a lot of birth. And yeah, these are the things that the UN should more focus on. And one thing I could suggest to them, which I don't know if they will hear, like it's like they can use more MUN, like the Model United Nations. There are a lot of youths coming up a lot with a lot of ideas to take their ideas into account, because I believe that this generation youth and the newcomers, they have a lot of ideas and they actually try to make a lot of changes compared to a lot of people who usually have the adequate amount of things with them, but they don't make use of it. So I guess giving a chance to this youth, it will allow them to get more, I don't know, like more of the opportunities in the country, and they can solve such issues. That's it.
Thank you.
Also I would like to add one more thing.
Go ahead.
Yeah, like Zahra said, I totally agree with her that I guess we are the changes. So the changes should start from within us. So every step we take, it will actually make a change in the future. That is how even we can come such problem like hunger issues. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. Actually, I would say the UN will hear you, because we will, after this panel, we will prepare a report and submit it to UN. So that's why they do this campaign. They want to hear the voices from different perspectives. Thank you for your opinions. And I think we can pass to the last question. Actually, the last question, you already, most of you have already mentioned briefly what can be done and reformed to manage the challenges. Do you have any other concrete suggestions, any solutions or recommendations to UN?
Hocam, actually, I want to add something what Fadia said. From my side, there are solutions for near future and for far future. I think for near future, we need to do two things, and they are having more food to feed people and also minimizing the food waste. And firstly, because we cannot increase the arable land we have now, so we have to increase the yields of the crops. And in near future, research funds can be raised for increasing efficiency of foods. And secondly, for minimizing food waste, we must be careful from ourselves. Like we need to be careful our own consciousness. And also the government of almost every country in the world, they need to create initiative and some campaigns to help make people to solve this global problem, food waste problem. And these are the near future explanations from my side. But also, I think there is a solution for far future. This means that the governments or the also United Nations can make some researches about artificial foods, because I believe that these lab-grown foods will be the optimal solution for next generations. And also, I can also give some advices to United Nations. And as far as I know, they already have a lot of actions to address these challenges and achieve this goal. But they can continue these activities. They can increase these activities, and also they can help who has a small farm already. They can find some funds for them. And especially in the current pandemic situation, they can supply the urgent food needs of the poor population. Actually, Fadia already said, but I also totally agree to Zehra. It's all of us up to us, because we already know them. We already know how we can solve. But if we don't believe them, if we don't believe how we can solve, then we cannot solve. So I think first step is believing. After that, we can follow these solution steps. By the way, I forget to introduce myself in the beginning. I'm Feyzanur Yılmaz from Industrial Engineer, like my friends from second year. And thank you also inviting me this meeting. I'm really pleasure of it. Thank you, Hocam.
Thank you, Feyzanur, for your nice answer. It's my pleasure, actually. And we can go on with another young panelist. Zehra, I think, can add something to this question. What do you suggest to UN to do to solve these challenges?
Thank you again. I just didn't want to interrupt your speeches. That's why I waited until this moment. I'm actually in some point agree with Mr. Hakim and dear Robert. They just touched really good points about how UN doing wrong or how things are doing well in the process of improving technology or in the process of improving science. But for me, to find a solid solution for any issue, we need to be certain about our problem definition, right? Today, we are talking about zero hunger. So is the hunger the real problem? Because it is, despite of being a result, it is also a reason of being hunger. How is that? Let's think about a chain. Hunger is causing people to feel psychologically, unbalanced. That's why they cannot think about their securities. When they don't think about their securities, they cannot build up their educational manners. And without education, well-being doesn't come. So everyone is similar with Maslow's pyramid, right? In the bottom, there is psychology. In the second level, there is security, then education, then well-being is coming. So today, what we are doing wrong, let's make a little bit explanation going through a case. I will a little bit speak about South Africa, because almost 230 million people are suffering from hunger there, and always we are donating food to them. But while donating them, we don't teach them how to fish. So there is a real strike in English, right? Don't give me a fish, just teach me how to fish. So if we do not, do not stop continuing just donating through them and start really investing on them, we cannot break the chain. What is my suggestion to break this chain then? So UN maybe can start little cooperations or competitions in certain continents to create projects. How is that? So in Africa, we know that sunbathing is almost doubled or tripled time higher than the Europe. So we can benefit from solar energy. Let's suppose creating a power plant there, and all the employments will be sourced by the African people. If we teach them how to do a little craftsmanship through the technological part, they will start to have little bit education, as well as they will have employment. With employment, money comes in. So with income, hunger will be decreased. Maybe by 10, maybe by 100, not the millions. But by the time we will increase the number of people who are earning their monies, so who can only consider about their security, education, and further. So today I can suggest again to really think about what projects they can create in Africa and what type of competitions they can create there. There are maybe 10 people of group started a startup, so waiting for a little budget. UN UN has enough network to provide this budget to them. So if they say there are solar panel budgets for $10 million for 10 years, if you do this project in this region, I will give this budget to you, but only the, requirement is that you will employ the African people. I think this might be a solution for further implements.
Can I add one thing?
Thank you. Yeah, I was trying. I will ask to you actually. You can go ahead.
Zehra, I really admire your passion and your interest on this field, and I really just happy to be in this part of the event. But I wanted to just say just one comment. I really understand your perception and passion on it, but Africa has 54 countries. They have major food production in Kenya. They have major food production in Nigeria. They have amazing, agri-food ecosystems in South Africa. It's a major continent. It's not a country by its own, from south to the north. So when you take into account and say, because I wanted to share that, the reason why I really love that, passion, but you need to direct it into certain angle. And when you say Africa and we need to teach, that's problematic. And that's the same attitude that we've experienced last 50, 60 years. We need to take into account that in UN, there's a lot of programs that is happening in Africa as well, in various sections for various problems. The issue, the context of your mentioning, you're integrating the solutions and startups, I love that. That's definitely the one of the major issues. There's a lot of funds, there's a lot of amazing startups in Africa, especially in Nigeria and in Kenya ecosystem, also in Tanzania. It's a major continent. That's the same. I wanted to share that because reason why, when we're talking about the solutions, it's not just about Africa. It's not just about Southeast Asia. It's everywhere. We're going to encounter the same things in here as well in Turkey. It's not that distant future. It's like 2-3 years. I'm in Istanbul and we're already finished our water. In next 10 days, they're going to cut out water for just 2 hours every day. That's already happening. So it's not just a distant future and a distant geography we need to teach, etc. We need to change how we think about every solution. That's the major thing. And that's also case of I wanted to just connect with that and then yield my time on that. Same thing goes with the UN as well. Like we need to understand who's responsible on what. Not everyone can do everything. UN cannot do private sector, and private sector cannot do intergovernmental organization. And corporates cannot do government policies and regulations. Everybody has a goal. Academia cannot do private sector, etc., etc. Like everybody has one goal on that. So everybody can do one thing. The corporation fact, I love that as well. The platform, I love that as well. But we need to take into account that the strengths and the weaknesses. So by we have to teach them. That could be you. That could be, you coming up with the startup and you determine which markets you want to work with and you determine which challenges that you can work with and you can set up your own startup. That could be your initiative. So we have to think it that way. That with the reasoning of that, we can solve these problems. I just wanted to share that because I really admire your passion.
Thank you, Hocam. I'm actually totally agree with you. That's why in the beginning, I just tried to emphasize in my study case, I just exampled Africa. I know that there are really, people suffering from hunger in Turkey too, in Middle East, even maybe our neighbors are suffering from them. But thinking about the development countries, it is a little bit different procedure than the places that never seen the education of technology. That's why I try to little bit connect this one with the Maslow pyramid, that maybe we can little bit put effort on people to be more developed. So in here, our governments also may do some different projects either. Even I tried some local municipalities to speak about how to solve some sustainability problems, even in my, local region. But they are not responding so fast, unfortunately.
Would take time.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Robert, would you like to add anything else? Or also it is a question for all the panelists.
No, I think that I addressed it already. I do also know that the world is not changing as radically as we all wanted to. And I do like indeed your passion, Sena, for sure. And I also see that passion in me as well, but I also am a practical man, whereby I do see that there are some problems, many, and it is not one problem, it is a series of problems, and that also needs a series of solutions in that sense. So, but to start is already a beginning, I always say. So if you don't start, things will run its course. That's what it is. So I think technology could be the best thing that will happen in providing food for everybody and zero hunger. The only thing is the people that are turning those buttons is where the difference lies. And I hope that there will be some competent people, because competence and relevance, I think, is very important. There will be competent people turning those buttons and pushing those buttons. So that's all. And apart from that, keep studying, but keep in mind the practicalities of the and implications in practice. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert, for your answers. Actually, time to wrap up the session, because it is almost 1.5 hours. If you want to add anything else about the panel, we can listen. Otherwise, I would like to say something. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, especially hearing the awareness of the young people about what's happening in the world make me more optimistic. So I can say we are in a good way, I guess. And we had different panelists from different platforms, from different cities and countries as well. I think we made a good contribution. I am very happy we had different solutions, suggestions to be delivered to UN. I really appreciate you for joining this panel. It was a pleasure for me to be with you in this panel to discuss the future of SDGs. Thank you very much.
Thank you for inviting us. It was amazing to meet all these passionate young people, and as well as colleagues from all the different fields. I'm appreciating that invitation. Thank you very much.
Same here. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was quite fun. I'd be happy to be here.
But I also would like to say it's a great opportunity and pleasure to me to being with very young people in here, and also the colleagues from all different fields and the initiatives. That's a lovely panel, and hope we will see each other in a very different panel and in different action in the future to save the world. Thank you very much.
Hojam, I would like to thank the students and also the professionals who have given us a little bit of their time. I believe that was very beneficial for us. Thank you again. We really appreciate your thoughts.
Also, thank you from my side for giving us this opportunity. Like, it was really nice meeting all the senior professors and everyone. And it was a really nice platform for all of us actually to share our idea. Thank you, Kevser Hojam. Actually, she was the one who gave us this opportunity. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, actually. Thank you.
Hojam, I'm so blessed to be here with you. Even each time everyone was starting to speak and I was getting closer to my camera, almost if it doesn't end, I was being united with my cam. So maybe it was the true time to stop. So thank you for everybody. That was really good for me to even evaluate my ideas in the background, because always I'm being in the meetings, maybe with youth, maybe with professionals, and we sometimes need different perspectives to think of. So I'm so thankful for everybody to put on me. I hope my words were beneficial for you too. Thank you again organizing this panel.
Yes, so John, it was a great experience for me too. I agree with everyone. So this is nice to be here to share our ideas. Thank you as well.
I want to thank you also for everyone. I learned so much from all of you, and I'm glad to be here. And I wish we can spread this awareness to all of the world. And thank you so much again.
Also, I thank you, Hojam, for giving me this opportunity. It was good to sharing our ideas and hearing new ideas. Also, it's evaluating our ideas. Thank you for giving me a chance to being a part of this beautiful panel.
Okay, I think that's a wrap it up. But before leaving, maybe we need to a little bit mention about our outsider audience, that why many of us say hoca, hocam, which means that's the professor in the Turkish language, that is generally people express to each other. And so we also saying that everybody is the hoca as well, because what we believe that everybody can learn each other and can teach the other people. Then therefore I would like to thank all hojas in here, all of you. And I think I leave the last word to Kevser Hoca and then leave the panel.
Actually, I totally agree with you, Hocam, because I am still learning from my students. So it was a great panel. I am very fulfilled. Thank you for joining us in this panel. I hope to see you in other panels or in other stages. Thank you.